see. Okay, members, you're very welcome to this meeting of Regeneration and Community Committee on Tuesday, the 10th of September 2024. Just before we get into the formal items of business, members, I just want to run through just a little bit of housekeeping. We have a number of virtual attendees on the call today. I see Councillor Errol Thompson, I see Councillor Mark Buchanan, I see Councillor Victor Warrington, and let's see, and Councillor Ling Hayes. Yeah, okay. Yes, members, obviously the protocol in terms of keeping your camera on at all times during the meeting must be complied with, and it is currently being complied with, so you're all very welcome. Secondly, members, I think that this is the first instance where we've had the opportunity to trial the speaking rights for non-members of committees, so we're going to be doing that tonight. I've had indications from members, and just to say that if you've indicated that you're going to be speaking on an item as a non-member, there are 2 seats just over here where we would ask that that be done. The Speaker 1 and Speaker 2 chairs, just to help keep the business orderly. And thirdly, members, I would just ask, you've seen the agenda, it's very hefty, it's pretty significant. I would ask your permission actually at this stage, if you'd be willing for the agenda to be slightly reordered so that we can try and move some of the more substantive business ahead. And what I would be proposing is that we would do items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. At that point, then go into committee, deal with items 11 and 12, come out of committee, and then deal with the two motions that we want to absolutely have the opportunity to debate. And then at that stage, deal with the reports that are for information. Would members broadly be content with that? Okay, thank you.
Agreed, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this stage, I'll just bring in Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. And it's just when I see the new layout of the 2 visitors, I meant to bring this up from the previous meeting in July, and it's just could we take a look at the seating arrangements within the chamber, because the Sinn Féin party here, there's a lot of us in the back row and there's another lot of us over there, and could we be facilitated, we'll say all in the back row, for handiness of communication if we need to have a quick word with each other on the thing. And I suppose the other thing that I wanted to say, the 2 speakers over here, could it not be organised that if anyone is there and has one speaking rights, that they could be seated beside their party group in some way, rather than being put out on, it's almost on the I don't know where you'd say over there, as it seems a wee bit of a strange thing to do with councillors. Could they not be just, if we are on the back row, could they not be added to the side of it? Or if somebody from SDLP wants to, that they could be beside Councillor Gannon. I'm just thinking it'd be a wee bit handier, you know, for parties and that.
Chair, maybe I'll just respond. Firstly, Councillor Green, we can review the seating arrangements more generally just to facilitate the sitting in groups. In terms of the speaker seating, these would be the arrangements that we have had in place for the planning committee and that have worked effectively. But it becomes more difficult to be able to align the mics, the seating and potential other speakers. But I think we hear the comments. We'll see whether we can make a more flexible arrangement, but it might not always be possible. But it is, as the Chair has said, our first meeting where we've trialled it, so there may need to be just a little bit of trial and error as well.
Thanks very much, and thanks, Chair, for letting me in quickly. It's just, I'm thinking of myself, because there's a good possibility that I would, we'll say in the environmental meeting, that I possibly will come in and want to talk on every subject. So to be seated over there, I would prefer being beside my party, but that's only me other councillors maybe only wants to come in and talk on one item.
As I understand it, the rules for this going forward is that you have to indicate in advance of the meeting specifically what items you wish to speak on. I don't think it's something that... Very well, Councillor Green, very well. Okay. If there's nothing else then at that stage, we'll just move on then to the formal business. Number one, do we have any apologies?
Chair, Councillor Hayes has her hand up on screen.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Sorry to interrupt, Chair, but I was given information earlier as, you know, we're just coming in just to speak on the motions that were originally supposed to be read at the council meeting, that the motions were going to be read first because we're not going to take part in the rest of the meeting.
My understanding is that that wasn't what was communicated, but perhaps, yeah, Alison.
Yep, certainly, Chair. I received a query just from Councillor Coyle as to when the motions would be heard. I said ultimately it would be Chair's ruling, but my understanding was we'd work on the basis of the 4 decision reports, followed by the motions, followed by reports for information, which is the arrangements as set out. I did also advise Councillor Coyle that officers would be able to keep an eye on the timing and progress through the agenda and would be able to alert those speakers on the motions when we were progressing through towards the end of the 4 decision business, Chair.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor, is that okay? Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, just an apology from Councillor Devine Gallagher and Councillor Catherine Kelly.
Thank you for that. At this stage, I'm not seeing any further indications in the chamber or online regarding any apologies, but no doubt if there's any further that come forward, that can be registered. Okay. Let's see. Moving on to item 2, sign the minutes of the confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 2nd of July 2024. I have already done that. Item 3, declarations of interest. Can we have indications of any declarations of interest? Councillor Campbell.
Your apologies, I don't have the agenda item here, but it was in relation to a partnership between the council and the University of Ulster on the funded project, just as involved with the university and courses. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's probably not necessary, but I will declare an interest as a member of the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Not seeing any further indications from members, but yeah. Oh.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just for myself, item 5.4, paper G, as a member of a group who has been awarded sponsorship for Culture Night. And during that item, I'll hand over to Anne to present the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to reports for decision. Item 4, Regeneration and Planning Director reports. Item 4.1, to consider report on Fermanagh Noma District Council annual performance report, 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024.
Hello, good evening, members. So the first item is to consider the report on the Fermanagh Noma District Council annual performance report. And members are reminded the council powers have been devolved to this item. Part 2 of the Local Government Act 2014 requires that the council publish a self-assessment of its performance improvement process in relation to the previous financial year by the 30th of September each year. The local government auditor is responsible for conducting an annual improvement audit and assessment to determine if the council has complied with the requirements of Part 12 of the Local Government Act, and this audit is scheduled to be completed in mid-October 2024. And the purpose of this report is to seek approval then for the draft annual report, which is attached but is undesigned at this point in time, which reflects the progress against the corporate plan in that year prior to publication on the 30th of September. So the report has been prepared as attached in Appendix 1. And the report provides information on the Council's performance scorecard for the 2023-24 year, the Council's performance management framework and governance arrangements, an overview and self-assessment of the progress made by the Council in relation to the delivery of its corporate plan for 2020 to 2024, an overview and self-assessment of the progress made by the Council in relation to the delivery of its performance improvement plan 23-24, an overview and comparison of performance in relation to the statutory indicators and standards and several self-imposed indicators, a financial overview in respect of the 22-23 year, and a statement on the implementation of the rural proofing duty in the 22-23 year. So the report aims to meet the Council's statutory duty in respect of the following three areas: the general duty to improve, an overview of the Council's progress against its corporate priorities and 4 improvement projects agreed in the Performance Improvement Plan, and 7 statutory and self-imposed indicators and standards. Members should note that the Council has been able to demonstrate progress and measurable improvements across all the 25 actions identified in the corporate plan. 96 of the 25 actions are progressing, and 44% of the 143 performance measures are moving in the right directions, which means interventions and service delivery is having a positive impact on outcomes. Significantly, the Council has met 4 of the 7 statutory indicators outlined in the Local Government Act. In terms of the 2 indicators, of the indicators not met, 2 have made considerable improvements. In terms of the one regarding economic development, the jobs promoted through business startup, the Go For programme ended in September 2023 and exceeded its targets for job creation by 2 jobs, and then the Go Succeed programme replaced it. It was delayed until November, and as a result there was limited progress in year, but it's expected that the figures for job creation will rise sharply in 24-25. As part of the Council's legislative duty to benchmark progress against other councils, the Council identified 24 self-imposed measures to report on using APSI data, as well as other internal measures identified at the beginning of the corporate plan back in 2020. In 2023-24, 18 of the 24 measures were met. Though inaccurate information on 2 self-imposed measures was reported in the 22-23 annual report, and these have been updated in the this year's report, and they refer to the cost of council services per head of population, and the second one then refers to the number of advice client contacts. So I suppose the annual report provides valuable information, and it allows the Council an opportunity to publicly demonstrate the breadth and quality of the work undertaken across the organisations and all its functions and services. And it also provides assurance to citizens in respect of the quality of services provided and our approach to the climate emergency. So the document will be available through the Council's website and on social media platforms. Electronic versions of the document will be issued to contacts on the consultee database, and it will also be referenced in the next issue of the Info publication, which is widely available. We will also profile key achievements on all the Council's social media platforms over the month of October. The recommendation is that the content of the draft annual performance report is approved for publication in advance of the statutory deadline, 30th September.
Thank you very much for that. Members, do we have any comments at this stage? Not seeing any indications in the chamber or online. If we're broadly satisfied, then would it be possible to get a proposer and a seconder then for the recommendations? I have a proposal from Councillor Gannon and a seconder from Councillor Rainey. All agreed? All agreed. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 4.2, which is to consider the report on tourism initiatives, paper B.
Okay, thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide members with updates and to seek approvals for the following items: the co-sponsorship of the Hospitality Exchange event for 2024, Fermanagh and Omagh Tourism Cluster Network event, and the hosting of a tourism conference for local businesses part event. That's actually wrong there. just to provide an update on the tourism conference. So in terms of the first item, the hospitality exchange, Northern Ireland Hotels Federation has contacted the council to ask if we'd be willing to act as a co-sponsor of the two-day event. If approval is granted, the council will receive 4 conference passes to the event and be included in the final programme, which is circulated to an industry database. The draft programme is attached in Appendix 1, and the event will be held in the Crown Plaza Hotel in Belfast. The cost of the sponsorship and 4 conference passes is £1,650 plus VAT. The second item then is around the Fermanagh Noma Sustainable Tourism Network event. Following an open call in November 23, businesses operating in the visitor economy were invited to join a local tourism business network. A total of 35 businesses have joined various clusters. There are 9 businesses in the Omagh and Sperrins cluster, 10 businesses in the Omagh or in the Enniskillen cluster, 6 businesses in the Listonskee Slieve Bay cluster, and 10 businesses in the Beleek, Irvinstown, Castle Archdale cluster. And each cluster has been assigned a mentor. So the clusters have been meeting, they've met a number of times over the last few months, and members have asked if an industry networking event could be convened with a proposed date of the 26th of September. And this will provide an opportunity, I suppose, for members across the council area to get to know each other and, I suppose, to see how they could work together to promote their businesses. So, and then another update then in terms of Sustainable Tourism Conference. At the June committee meeting, we resolved to provide a contribution to the Sustainable Tourism Network to attract this annual conference to Northern Ireland in January 2025. But the organisers have actually selected a hotel in County Clare, citing a more favourable venue and the fact that there was more members in that part of the southwest of Ireland. However, council officers have been advised that the network does plan to host a regional event in the council area. And then just an update in terms of the tourism conference. This event is now proposed that it'll take place in the spring of 25 prior to the start of the new tourism season, and a report will be brought to the October RNC meeting provided more detail on the proposed event. So the recommendation is to consider a contribution of £1,650 to the Hospitality Exchange Conference on the 15th to the 16th of October, to note the update in terms of the Fermanagh and Noma Sustainable Tourism Network event, and just the update in terms of the hosting of the tourism conference, and say we'll just bring more detail in October in terms of that.
Okay, thank you very much. And take in Councillor Diane Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Anne, for the report. Yes, it's good to see the focus on tourism. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. It's with regard to Hospitality Exchange, you said co-sponsor. What other councils are you aware of who else is sponsoring it? Is it just two particular sponsors or a range of sponsors?
I would imagine that there's a range of sponsors because we haven't been asked for a huge amount of money in terms of that event. So I would say it was a generic, I suppose, invitation to a lot of people to see who might sponsor the event, you know.
Because if I'm correct, I think we sponsored it last year as well.
I'm not sure that we did. I think that we were asked to sponsor it and maybe we decided we wouldn't sponsor it.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I think that's what happened.
Okay. Thank you. And with regard to the Sustainable Tourism Network event, it's good to see the networking opportunities and the collaboration. And my question really is, at the end of this, is there going to be some measurable outputs, some actions taken that the speed dating idea, yes, will happen, members will introduce themselves, and a lot of the tourism providers will have some idea who the other providers are. It's good to see them collaborating and to see an opportunity coming out of that to really build, you know, each area, you know, with what's to do in that area. So is there a plan there that will take that forward in a meaningful way?
It's my understanding that there probably Some of them may be aware of each other, but there's a lot more work that needs to be done. So this is, I suppose, the first opportunity. I suppose the clusters have been set up, so they're working together in their local areas. This is an opportunity now across the wider district council area to work together. So I suppose we'll see how that event goes, but the plan would be to take that, to develop that further, because that's exactly what it is, you know, a network. So it's to see what the opportunities are and to see where that takes us. But this is a really good start to get the businesses actually to work together across the entire district.
That's good to see. Thank you. Well, then I'd be happy to propose the recommendations in the report. Thank you, Anne.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, Chair, maybe just if Councillor Armstrong, is that to include that we do then make the provision for the sponsorships? Just to clarify on that point, please.
Yes, if other members are agreeable, you know, I do think it's important that we keep our presence there in any central events to do with tourism. Thank you.
Okay, members, do we have any further comments at this stage? Not seeing anything online or in the chamber. We have a proposer then for the recommendations. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rainey? Folks, are we content? Okay, good stuff. Thank you very much. Moving on then to item 4.3, which is the considered report of the Director of Regeneration and Planning, paper C.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide details regarding letters of offer acceptance, memorandum of understanding acceptance, letter of variance acceptance, the Fermanagh Herald Business Awards 2024 sponsorship, and then an update on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund NI Communities in Place funding for 2024-25. So we've received a number of letters of offer there. You have the details attached. And then I suppose, and letters of all the details of all the letters of offer and all the memorandums of understanding and letters of variance are attached for your information. And then in terms of the Fermanagh Business Awards, this is for decision. So the Fermanagh Herald Business Awards will take place on the Friday, the 11th of October in the Kellyhaviland Hotel. And it's proposed that the council sponsors the Business Excellence Award. We've done that for the last number of years. So the cost of the category sponsorship is £2,000 plus VAT. This includes the sponsorship of the award at the gala, a table of 8 provided for council representatives, and the council's branding included in the category nominee, dedicated videos, event programme, and on the AV screens. So I suppose if members are content or are willing to approve the cost of the sponsorship, then we will need nominations for people, not necessarily tonight, but to maybe think about what members may like to attend that event. And I suppose if we could have that maybe for the council meeting in October. The next item then, the final item, is an update on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, NI Communities in Place. So we've been waiting for information about this piece of funding for a number of months, and it was delayed just with the election, the Westminster election. So we had a call just last week about this funding. So the call opened on the 29th of August, and it will close on the 19th of September. And it's anticipated that the grant determination letters will be issued at the beginning of October. This funding all has to be spent by the 31st of March next year, so it's very tight in terms of projects, but projects that have been underway from the 1st of April, the whole financial year can be included in any application. So the total amount of funding being awarded to councils across Northern Ireland is 9.58 million. And unfortunately, the total amount of funding being provided to our district council is £604,000. So it's based on population. So the following projects are to be included in the application. Additional trails at Ecclesville. You'll be aware that we completed some work there 1 or 2 years ago. Tully Castle access and then improvements to play parks. And these projects have all been included in the Council's capital expenditure programme for 2024-25. So the recommendation is that the Council notes the acceptance of the letters of offer, notes the acceptance of a letter of variance, participates in the Fermanagh Herald Business Awards and the sponsorship of the Business Excellence Awards at a cost of £2,000 plus VAT, and nominates 8 members to attend the event, and then notes the update on the UK Shared Prosperity funding and the submission of an application to the call before the closing date of the 19th of September.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have an indication from Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks, Alan, for the report. I'm happy to propose the recommendations as listed. And with regard to part 3, I think it's very vitally important that this council is involved with the business awards, whether that be in Fermanagh or in the Omagh part. So I'm happy to propose the 4 parts of the recommendation, and also propose the name of Councillor Paul Robinson, our group leader, to attend the event as part of that table. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other comments at this stage? Okay. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose it's that UK shared fund, the 606,000 out of 9.58 million, I believe. How was that broken down? Is it that that's what the council had claimed, or is that what has been allocated? And is it been allocated per capita, or is it is there any, when these things are being allocated, is there any anything took into account for like rural disadvantage and rural connectivity and things like that, where we are the furthest away from services all the time? Is there anything given or what formula is used?
Seems to be just population, and we did ask about, we did make the case, we are just the things that you're saying, we're so much further away, and it's so much it's more expensive to deliver services, etc. But I suppose they have made their decision in terms of it's just based on population, and I think. To some extent, like, we weren't consulted. I mean, we just attended the event on the 29th of August, and we were told this was our allocation. And like, Belfast City Council is getting 1.7 million, ABC Council is getting 1.1 million. I think there's one council in maybe Mid and East Antrim's getting 719,000 from memory. So that's the next, we're then 604,000. So it's very, very disappointing. But I suppose what we were told was at this stage, if say we were to send in a letter to say we're very disappointed and we're not happy with how the allocation was made, then we wouldn't be able to spend the money in year. It would delay the call for all councils, and that would mean that we would more than likely lose the money. So I suppose for now, it's whenever they come so late in the year with this announcement, we are very limited in what we can do, and I suppose it's very disappointing in terms of the amount of money, but it is still 600,000. Maybe next year, I mean, we will certainly, I think they are very aware of how unhappy we were with the allocation. So we did certainly make that point, but it was if you want to raise an issue about this, it'll delay it for everybody. So you can't do that. That's.
Thanks, Anne. And that's good that is all raised with them and that. I suppose it's almost like a threat. Don't raise any issues or you'll lose it for yourselves and everyone else. But surely we can raise an issue without delaying it. We can write a letter and and express all our concerns on it. Who exactly, or which department, or who exactly broke this down? Is there any possibility that we can request to meet these people? You know, because coming on the 29th of August with this and then basically telling us that's it, it doesn't seem to be good practice as far as any form of government's concerned. You know, you just have to accept it or else type of thing. So I would propose that we do write letter rather than object just in case that it is through that we would end up losing the money, but to express all of them things and to actually meet whoever is making these decisions, because I think people has to be held to account and they just can't hide behind, well, if you complain, you're going to lose this. You know, there has to be accountability in some form or another. So that'll be my proposal on that.
Okay, and I'm calling in Councillor Campbell.
Yes, Chair, I'd be happy to second Councillor Green's proposal. And I suppose I just want to comment on 2.1.3, the Public Health Agency letters of offer. So some, you know, good news in that. I'm looking at age-friendly communities program, 51,000, and also for healthy towns and the home visit scheme. So that's very much to be welcomed. You know, and obviously fuel poverty is something that we have supported through the cost of living support previously. And I know that we're going to continue to do that, but it's disappointing that the department hasn't yet delivered on what it had delivered previously, but maybe there's still time for that. But I just have a question on the physical activity referral scheme. That's obviously across the whole of our district. Do we have any indication? I take it that will all be utilised, all that funding that's there. Is it highly subscribed? And do we feel that we get a good breadth across the district? Or maybe is there some parts better at referring people to that than others, or some areas better? I'm not asking for a big report to be brought back. The main thing is that people are being referred as part of that scheme and that we're able to support it. But I'm just trying to get a feel for how well it's going across the district.
Chair, if I take that one, yeah, the power scheme is, it certainly, there are a lot of people coming through it, and GPs are very much involved in it. I have to say, a very successful scheme, which is run by 1-2 people, but very, very effective. And what we find is that those who actually, the vast majority of those who are actually on the power scheme come and they join the leisure centre themselves, and the outcomes of those schemes are absolutely fantastic. So yes, the uptake is great, the interaction with the GPs is great, and it is heavily subscribed.
That's good, thank you. Good to hear, thanks, Chairman.
Councillor Campbell, while you're at it, are you content to also second the recommendations in the report?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that, yeah, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Calling in Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. And listening in to what has been said by the directors on this, obviously we don't have the details for, well, we don't have them to hand in the report unless I missed them, what every council has been allocated. But would we be the least amount potentially? In addition to that, Chair, you know, they kind of, this body, this UK Shared Prosperity, they basically have kind of threatened councils. So they have said, don't challenge us or we'll take it away. And maybe that was implied and not directly said. But to say that, you know, that's coercion's twisting the arm behind the back, in my opinion. Maybe that's a strong wording, but it definitely is trying to say, take what you're offered or get out. That's what they're saying. And they say, oh, you'll delay it for everyone. You know, personally, I wouldn't mind delaying it for everyone because Fermanagh and Omagh is my concern, and Fermanagh and Omagh getting their fair share is my concern. Now, obviously, I appreciate the director's advice and that there's a risk to be taken to doing that. And the indication from the directors that risk probably isn't worth taking. And therefore, I'm happy to second, if I don't know if Councillor Campbell already did, but second Councillor Green's proposal about writing to them as well and saying that this is simply unacceptable, and that if this comes in up again and it's not a fair allocation, because okay, it'll be impossible to get a perfectly fair 9.0 whatever % split, which would be even between each council. It might be near impossible to do that, but we should be getting the guts of near 900,000, and you could argue that being a rural area, we should be getting more to compensate for those costs of delivering services and the fact that regional imbalance is at play. But I would be saying in the letter, if Councillor Green's happy to add it, that in future we might be happy, or we would consider delaying this for everyone if it's not fair, and that we would consider if we can protest in that way in future. Thank you, Chair.
I'm not seeing any further indications. Chief Executive.
Chair, it was just to make maybe a couple of comments just following members' input and in terms of who we would direct the letter to as well. So you may recall that this sort of funding emerged really from what was levelling up, which was the previous Conservative government's agenda. There is still some uncertainty about what the new Labour government will do by way of replacement funding. So I think, and within the spirit of the comments, it would probably be worth clarifying. I think the letter should probably go to the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, because while the people who have made the allocation are essentially officials, I think they were working on the tail end of money. I think the other thing that we have to recognise, there are 10 other councils who are generally very content with the allocation. And that we have to be aware that there is really no one fighting the corner for enhanced rural provision, enhanced funding to councils such as ours. Population is cutting it very well for quite a lot of our neighbouring councils. So I think that's something to be aware of too. What I would maybe suggest, Chair, if members were minded to include it within that original proposal, I think it's highly likely that we may get a response from the Northern Ireland office to say that at least an element of these matters will now be devolved. And we know that there is no provision within any of the Stormont budgets also for levelling up. So I think that pending the response that we would receive from the Northern Ireland office, we know DFC funding only applies to populations of 5,000 and above. There will be no successor rural development programme. All of our previous funding streams that have been reported are now cut. There is really nowhere left for us to go. So I think we should lobby hard to the Secretary of State in the context that the other 10 councils at least are saying they're broadly content. And then we also need to consider what's happening at a Stormont level too.
Okay. Councillor Green, are you satisfied with your proposal maybe taking that shape?
Yeah, I'm very happy on that. Could I also suggest maybe that our local MPs and whatever is also linked into this, because we need everyone lobbying on this to the British government. So this is basically some of the money that we lost out due to Brexit, and it's probably never going to come back. And if they devolve it to our local government departments, we all know the state of the finances, so we're going to lose out big time, and we're already losing out on this. So yeah, I'm happy with that, with Alice's point there, and if everyone's happy enough to link in our local MPs and that, and to just let them know that this is the position we're in.
Okay, so I have a proposal from Councillor Green that we communicate with the Secretary of State in terms of those concerns, and also link in with local members of Parliament regarding this. It's proposed by Councillor Green, seconded by Councillor Campbell. We agreed with that? See any objection? And I have the proposal for the recommendations from Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Are we content with that? All right, thank you very much, members. Moving on then to item 5, Community and Wellbeing Director reports to consider the draft response to the Department of Health consultation on policy underpinning the Public Health Bill, paper D.
Thank you, Chair. And Chair, just to remind members, the council powers have been delegated to this committee to deal with this item because the consultation response has to be made by the 27th of September. And the purpose of the report is to approve that draft response, which is included as part of the report to the Northern Ireland Public Health Bill. The overarching principle of the bill is to protect the population against various forms of infection, contamination, including biological, chemical and radiological, and including infectious diseases. And we've all, I suppose, recently came through the COVID experience. And it was the original act was the 1967 Act, and this has been reviewed, resulting in some 18 recommendations and including consultation with key stakeholders into the development of the bill, which is now out for consultation. The subgroup of Environmental Health NI, has prepared a response, and that response is included in Appendix 1. Largely, Environmental Health welcomes the review of the Public Health Act. One concern, I suppose, or the large concern, as always, is regarding any increased roles and responsibilities for the council under the new bill, and the lack of funding and potential increase in expectations and extra work that the new bill will place on councils to deliver the service on behalf of the Public Health Agency. And indeed, you will see throughout the responses, the roles and responsibilities is often referred to as a concern for councils, and what are the responsibilities, the definition of the roles and responsibilities that are passing to council in relation to it. So, Chair, the recommendation is that it's recommended that the council approves the consultation response on the policy underpinning the Public Health Bill in Northern Ireland.
I'm not seeing any indications at this stage, either in the chamber or online. If people are content with the content of the response, could I please get a, Councillor Armstrong.
Chair, thank you. Yes, I would be content with it at the moment. It's obviously going out for consultation, and I do think that at present Northern Ireland is entirely reliant on the 1967 Public Health Act, but it's no longer appropriate in those circumstances and has been going through a period of review. So I'm happy to propose the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And do we have a seconder for that? Back to the Campbell. As a council second, are we agreed? All right, thank you very much. Okay, moving on then to item 5.2, to consider report on health inequalities in the food system funding, paper E.
Thank you, Chair. Again, Chair, council powers have been delegated to the committee to deal with this because this is for a funding application which is due for submission on the 19th of September. The purpose of the report is to seek approval for the Integrated Wellbeing Network, and members will be aware of the Integrated Wellbeing Network, which has been set up as a function under community planning, where a lot of other public bodies and indeed the community and voluntary sector sit in order to improve the health outcomes of the people of our district. For the Integrated Wellbeing Network to partner with the University of Ulster on a funding application to consider the dietary health needs and inequalities within the Fermanagh district. The funding is through UK Research and Innovation, and it is to foster a better understanding of the causes of dietary health inequalities in the UK and to deliver solutions that are local solutions, interventions to improve the equity and health of the population. We have done significant work with the University of Ulster. Members will be aware of the co-poverties work which we undertook with the University of Ulster in 2023, and that research found that food items were on average more expensive, less available in the rural areas of Fermanagh District Council, and that access issue and price and availability is less advantageous for villages and rural areas than it is in large towns. The project proposal, I suppose, builds on that work which was undertaken in 2023 by the University of Ulster. And it must be made that the research itself must be led by a research body, such as the university. And the University of Ulster are actually keen to work with Fermanagh and Omagh District Council in doing a place-based approach and research in our district, following on from the work. The project, or the potential cost of the project, or the potential funding that is available, is quite substantial, 1.875 million, which the UK Research Innovation will fund 80%, 1.5 million of it, and the University of Ulster have indicated that they will fund the remaining 20%. So it will be effectively at a nil cost. Yes, there will be a little bit of staff time or whatever involved in the application and in monitoring. But I think the success of the project and the potential of the project will certainly support a lot of the actions that we have in our community plan, and indeed could be a research proposal or a research work that could be developed for other regions and other areas. I think it is an excellent opportunity. It's a 3-year proposal. And there will be various work with the Western Health Trust, and there will be the idea is to have dietitians working at a very local level, to have psychologists, because of the ideas that food is not just related to food itself, but it is related to the whole culture of society and what you grow up with, and trying to change those attitudes, those mental attitudes towards food and healthy eating. Also, the impact and the links that it has with physical activity and how that interacts on the food system itself. So there are many benefits and health benefits for our resident population if we were to be successful. It is a competitive fund, I have to say, and certainly no guarantee of funding. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council approves to partner as a member of the Integrated Wellbeing Network with the University of Ulster on the submission for funding to the UK Research and Innovation, and also approves a letter of support from the Council itself to support the application, as other bodies are doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. And I call Councillor Michael Duff.
Chair, welcome John's deliberation there and all of that, and I would like to propose accordingly that we go down that path. Thanks very much, Chair. And just news of
Sure, Fermanagh colleagues are absolutely delighted. Okay. Do we have a seconder? I'm not seeing any further indications to speak. Councillor Tom.
Yeah, happy to second, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Thompson, happy to second. Thank you, folks, and we're all broadly agreed. Grand. Okay, then moving on to item 5.3, which is to consider the report on Festival Expenditure 2024, paper F. John, and if you wish to speak on this particular, you're out of the state? Okay, grand.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the purpose of the report is to provide members with further information to support the Christmas lights for festive lighting and Christmas trees in towns and villages, the Enniskillen and Omagh festival features, and the programme and marketing and communications in relation to it. Members may remember that a report was brought in June of this year, and members asked for additional information in relation to consideration of providing enhanced financial support instead of provision of Christmas trees to the rural towns and villages, to look at whether smaller settlements identified in the Council's LDP could be included on the list of settlements for funding, and the potential for greater flexibility in the allocation of funding should groups in smaller towns and villages request a Christmas-themed event as opposed to Christmas lights. The festive lighting and Christmas trees in rural towns and villages are largely and have been based on the 2021 census, and the allocation of that lighting for 2024 is presented in Appendix 1. It's made up of three components. One, a population-based allocation for festive lighting, an additional £540, which was agreed, I believe, by members, by council 2 years ago in relation towards the insurance costs for any group requiring a DFI licence, and also an optional £450 towards a Christmas tree if option 4 is approved by members. The population-based allocations for festive lighting is based, as I say, on NISR stats. But what we are proposing is that all settlements identified within the LDP with a population of less than 100 can also apply for a contribution of £125 towards festive lighting. And in addition to that, members will be aware in the past number of years since 2020, Council also provided lighting projectors in a number of settlements, Carrickmore, Dromore, Fintona, Irvinstown and Lisnaskea to enhance the lighting in those areas. The contribution towards the insurance costs is, as it has been for the last number of years, in order to help local communities apply to DFI for the licence. Previously, the council used to do this on behalf, but new regulations within the Department for Finance or Department for Infrastructure required that the communities made the application themselves, and officers will continue to support local communities in that application process. The issue of Christmas trees in rural towns and villages, there are 4 options identified there as to what we do in rural towns. One is the status quo. So that the council install Christmas trees in the 2 main towns in Omagh and Enniskillen and continue to provide to install trees in the rural settlements. Last year, Christmas trees were allocated to 24 out of the 39 communities that had Christmas lights funding. The second option is to install Christmas trees in the 2 main towns, Omagh and Enniskillen, and to provide an additional community grant of £450 to the rural towns and villages across the district that had a Christmas tree previously. The third option is to install Christmas trees in Omagh and Enniskillen, and the 5 towns which get this festive lighting, the projections, in order for those larger settlements outside of Omagh and Enniskillen. And the fourth option, and the one which officers are proposing, to install Christmas trees in the 2 main towns, Omagh and Enniskillen, and provide additional community grant of £450 to all of the rural towns and villages across the district that had a Christmas tree previously or of a population of over 350. And for this year, for 2024, to provide a transition period to give them a choice as to whether they want the council to do it or whether they wish to they would wish to take the £450 and let the community undertake the work themselves. Some groups may wish to choose an artificial tree, and I know that was an item for discussion at the last time, and I think that can be accommodated within the allocation of funding of the £450. In relation to Omagh and Enniskillen festive features, they're installed and managed by the council. The total budget for that is £79,000, and members will be aware of what has become known as the bid Christmas tree here on the Diamond in Enniskillen, and that will continue as it has in the last 2 years. The Christmas events and festive programme and marketing and communications is noted there also, with Christmas lights switch on in both Omagh and Enniskillen on Saturday the 23rd of November, programme of music over a 4-week period in the lead up to Christmas, an events programme which will wrap around all of the Christmas proposition in the district in themed event and experiences in the Struhl Arts Centre and the Ardó and so on. And the allowance that rural towns and villages that they can use up to 50% of the allocation of the funding that can be used towards a Christmas event in the local. And I know Christmas events at the local level are very, very important. Also, officers who will work, as we have done in previous years, with Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism in order to try and drive the business experience and to try and bring visitors to come to our district, and a marketing campaign to support that. So Chair has recommended that the Council approves the allocations for festive lighting as detailed in Appendix 1, approves option 4 in terms of the Christmas tree provision, which is to install the Christmas trees in the 2 main towns and provide additional community grant of £450 to local areas, but given a choice in this year of 2024. Notes the Council contributions for the installation and dismantling of the bid Christmas tree, and approves the events programme and marketing and communications approach. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, John. There's a fair bit in that, members, 4 different recommendations. I'll go first to Councillor Green.
Thanks. Just a small query, but just to clarify something there, I see Coonan is down in population of less than 100, and that might have been the case back in 2021, but there's been a huge increase in the population. We're now up at 3,000, so could that be just amended so that the proper money can be provided? Joking, by the way. Just on the £125, I presume that doesn't have to be spent on any particular thing. It could be used on an event, because £125 definitely wouldn't go far on a tree, especially in a small area like that, or indeed lights. So I presume that can be spent on if they're holding a Christmas event.
Yeah, we'll definitely support events. We have tried not to put all of an allocation that we provide as a council an event, because we want something tangible there for a local community also. So certainly it's something we will certainly look at, and will not for £125 for a local community. I think there needs to be some level of like there, you know, to experience it. If it is just a Christmas event, it's just a one-off thing. I think local communities can be innovative in what they do for that £125. I know it's not a lot of money, but I think with the innovation that is at a local community, I think we could get some really good things happening at a local community level.
What I'm saying is the Lexic Union Association just run a kind of like a Christmas party for older members of the community, and I suppose it should declare an interest at this stage too, but as being an older member of the community. But and the fact that they have to turn the lights on in the hall to run that, I'm sure that would cover the lighting end of it.
Chair, yeah, if it is for £125, if it's an event, I think if members agree to that, then yes, certainly.
Right, Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's some good things in there, definitely. I think the flexibility of going from 25 to 50% for events, because I know some communities in Erne West were big on run the event, and they would have preferred to put more into that in the past. And I think it's good that the council will continue with the DFI licence support and the grant to assist with that. And I think festive lighting allocation, it's kind of some places lose, some places gain, but in most places it's very minor changes. The one thing I'm kind of looking at, Chair, and I'm interested in other members' opinions on this, is around that option 4. So it's saying for 1 year, it's £450 enhanced grant or an installed tree, one or the other. And then going forward, then it's just the £450 enhanced grant. personally, my gut, and this is probably not what the director wants to hear in terms of admin, would be to keep the choice long term. You know, it is a bit more admin. It is a wee touch more messy, but it shouldn't be too difficult. If we can do it for 1 year, I see no reason why we can't do it long term. I'd be interested in the feedback from the director of that, and if other members kind of agree or disagree with that, and I might make a proposal later depending on feedback. Chair, thank you.
Yeah. Chair, I suppose option of the 450 provides a lot more flexibility for communities, is what I would say. You know, in how to spend, because they don't have to spend it all on the tree or whatever. So it provides that flexibility. What I would suggest maybe that if we were to implement option 4 this year, and then at the end of, for those communities that decided that they want to do it themselves, that we would review it and we would bring a report back next year in relation to it, if we want to go down that road.
Okay, Councillor Campbell.
I suppose just to clarify with John there, so I mean, my thinking and our thinking really was similar in that we felt, you know, that groups will prefer that option, you know, not just for this year, but for other years, so that they could choose, you know, to put the money into a tree or have the council kind of help in the way that it done previously, you know, because I think some smaller community groups would struggle, maybe even with the money to they may well choose to with the status quo, you know. So I wonder, is that what we're going with now, option 4, but without the last line really, that we would review it next year depending on the uptake this year? So like option 4, but without the part where it is a full implementation from 2025, so just without that.
Yeah, certainly, Chair. We can agree to that and have an yearly review next year as to how it went, and bring a report through and make a final recommendation for moving ahead in future years.
Yeah, okay. I'm happy to propose our second accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Withers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just going back to Seamus's point there earlier as regards the funding for a Christmas event. So I actually raised that in the summer whenever we had our last meeting there in July time. Because the likes of Teddy Ray there, we can see they haven't applied previously the last couple of years anyway. So that's all those type of small settlements where there's no need for that type of lighting. So what I'm looking for, I suppose, is more clarity that Seamus is making out there in terms of what flexibility there'll be there, John. So and we said there's some flexibility. We receive like sight of that, or we just don't want a community group coming to us know in October, November time saying they applied and they didn't get, because £125 or £275 is not a lot of money either when it comes to funding one of these events. So just give what type of flexibility there will be for those events.
In relation, Chair, just for clarity, in relation to the £125 allocation for the very small,
and the likes of the 275 as well.
Yeah, listen, there will be flexibility in relation to you know, what they can use their money for. It isn't something that I would anticipate that we bring through council on a year-by-year basis. I suppose what we are trying to do here is get a position of the council that works for communities, but that we don't need to come back year on year doing exactly and asking for the same thing. So certainly what I'm saying is that I think throughout this report, there is the flexibility of working with local communities to deliver a Christmas event or a Christmas lights or whatever that suits that local community.
Okay, Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. So just given the director's feedback and comments from Councillor Campbell, I'm happy to second that proposal. It gives the flexibility and allows us to see, do we commit to one way going forward next year, or do we keep the flexibility built in? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a point of information seeking, John, is the administrative responsibilities of the recipient organisations. What is their obligation there in terms of a return back to the council? for the funding that's been received?
They will have to apply for the funding and make a return as to what they spent. It will not be onerous on the
Returns.
communities.
Okay, certainly. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, just this stage, Councillor Feely, I take it you're not taking up your, oh, sorry, Councillor John Feely, I take it you're not taking up your speaking rights at this stage? No, okay, that's grand. Okay, Councillor Anthony Finney.
Thanks, Chair, and sorry, I didn't realise I had to come over here. I was there coming in the meeting. Sorry, it's like the planning committee meeting, so I didn't realise that. No, thanks for that, John. I'm glad that option we're going for. Like it is, it's a great thing for them small areas like Cashin and Bow and many in them small areas that it's not all the big towns getting it. And it sounds kind of a petty, the question I'm going to ask, but it was the community group in Garrison got on to me about it afterwards. I reckon it's it is very petty now. But I have another question to ask. Well, I didn't come up especially to ask this. The tree is very small, yeah? And they said some of the trees in other town was bigger. So I was just wondering, it was the different sizes in trees for different areas? Were they all, I thought would have all been a standard size. And so this we're going to leave it off Christmas trees, but it's to do with Christmas. Maybe you weren't here this time, John, but Alison was there that time years ago, and the council used to provide a wee train, kind of like a Santa train, they used to call it, and he used to come down to the communities for them Christmas parties that we were talking about. Used to be in Garrison, used to be a good event. But I don't know, is it around COVID it stopped, or is that completely stopped, or is it still there? It's just, if anybody knew that. Thank you.
Chair, just in relation, taking your second point first, the train has been decommissioned. Health and safety issues with regard to the train, it is no longer available. In relation to the tree, I'll get clarification. I'll come back to you from John Hughes in relation to the provision of trees. But yes, trees, I think it is largely based on analysis of population. I think trees are of a different size. You'll never get a tree the same size or whatever. And I know that in various communities there are complaints about the size of the tree and the state of the tree or whatever. I can assure you that any tree that is provided by the council, that officers do try their best to make it as good a tree as they possibly can for the local communities.
Oh, that's sound, John. Sorry, but I didn't realise that. I thought it was only kind of a one-off complaint. So you do get complaints about that. But one more question. You mentioned artificial trees there. Is that common? Does many people get the artificial trees, or is there a big difference in the price of the artificial tree and other? I was just wondering. I know it's just
it is. Well, it's starting to become more common, I suppose, in a sense. I know there are queries with regard to how sustainable artificial trees are compared to the real trees and so on and so forth, because many of them come from China and various places like that. So the whole carbon footprint that is associated with them. But they are actually becoming more and more common, and I suppose easier to install, easier to take down. You don't have to dispose of them and things like that. So there are many advantages with the artificial tree.
All right, members, thank you for that. We have a proposal and a seconder then for the recommendations. Are members content? Good stuff. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 5.4, which is to consider the update report on events, paper G.
I'm going to cover that.
Yeah.
The purpose of the report is to seek approval for the update of the events and festival strategy 24-28, to seek approval for a multi-annual sponsorship pilot programme, and to note sponsorship for Culture Night and European Heritage Open Days. So the Fermanagh Noma, the council, the events and festival strategy was developed in 2019. Officers have completed a midpoint review and refreshed to reflecting the changing events priorities post-COVID-19. The strategy was intended to be a dynamic document that would adapt to reflecting evolving trends, funding opportunities and the Council's strategic priorities. And I suppose we're all aware of how much of an important role events play in the local area in terms of attracting visitors and stimulating local economic activity. So the refreshed strategy ensures alignment with key council initiatives and plans. And the updated strategy focuses on enhanced business and community collaboration, increased focus on inward investment or inward sponsorship generation, alternative delivery models for staging events, capacity building in the local event sector through training and support, and strategic investment in new and existing events to maximise economic and social benefits. The refreshed approach aims to create a more dynamic, sustainable and impact events ecosystem. And the Council, I suppose, is seeking to position itself as a leading destination for high quality events and festivals. The multi-annual funding pilot then is included in the events and festival strategy. And this is, I suppose, is an introduction of a pilot programme for multi-annual funding designed to enhance the planning, scaling and sustainability of events which align with the long-term objective of the Council's corporate plan and community plan. Engagement with event organisers has revealed that volunteer-led community event organisers faced ongoing challenges with single-year funding and limited resources. And these groups play a crucial role in providing arts and cultural events that enrich the lives of local people and visitors and strengthen the local economy. Alongside that, private sector event organisers have highlighted the potential benefits for future planning and upscaling events that a multi-annual commitment would give. The proposed multi-annual pilot will consist of two distinct funding strands: scale and sustain, providing support over a 3-year period to expand events and attract large-scale and major events to the district. So the scale then aims to position the council area as a recognised event-friendly destination by scaling up small and medium events and attracting larger regional events. It aims to boost the local economy. Funding levels will align with existing sponsorship levels for events. Sustain, this strand will focus on the essential role of local community events, investing in community arts and cultural organisations that offer year-round programmes. Multi-annual funding will strengthen the organisational capacity and sustainability. The budget for a pilot multi-annual programme will be considered as part of the estimates programme for 25-26. However, it will predominantly utilise the existing events budget and redirecting the wellbeing and culture budgets to facilitate multi-annual report. If approved, the pilot will open for applications to coincide with the annual grant aid and sponsorship funding cycle in 2025. Based on 2024-25 estimates, it's anticipated that approximately 90,000 will be allocated to 10 partner organisations. The total budget for events for 24-25 is £162,900. Then in terms of Culture Night, which is a UK and Ireland-wide celebration of arts and creativity, these events take place on Friday the 20th of September. And the initiative, I suppose, provides free public entertainment while enabling local arts and cultural organisations to engage with new audiences. European Heritage Open Days is organised regionally by the Department for the Communities, and it'll be held on the 14th and the 15th of September. And this event, I suppose, showcases local architecture, history and culture. The Council is offering sponsorship funding of £200 per event for Culture Night and for the European Heritage Open Days. So we had it was slow to actually get some people to apply for it, but we have attached in Appendix 2 the groups that have been awarded funding. Feedback from applicants have indicated that the sponsorship value is too low and there's application fatigue among local groups who apply for multiple funding sources for annual activities and events. So a review of the uptake value, balance and timing of future funding will be conducted to enhance engagement for any future funding that is available. So recommendation is that the council approves the revised events and festival strategy for 24-28, attached in Appendix 1, approves the development of a pilot programme for multi-annual sponsorship, and notes the sponsorship for Culture Night and European Heritage Open Days, which you can find the details in Appendix 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. And Councillor Kelly.
Sorry, Chair, was sleeping at the start. So 5.4 declaration as a committee member of a group receiving money for Culture Night.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, Councillor Green.
Thank you, and thanks for the report. On item 2.2, the multi-annual funding, just in what way is that going to be? Maybe I've missed it in the reading of it. How is that going to be the pilot group picked there? And could you just explain that to me? And then I have a follow-on question, or John.
Chair, yeah. There will be an analysis done of those events, which both, as it points out there, scale and sustain. One is that those of a scale that will bring in large numbers of people into our district to support the event. And the second one will be to focus on local community events, to those that invest in the arts and at a community level, cultural organisations within our district, and to provide multi-annual funding in order to try and support those. So it is, and you will see there from the report that just as a pilot, that we will allocate 10 partner organisations, and that we will set aside, or proposal to set aside £90,000 for multi-annual funding out of our existing budgets. And I suppose we will then look at the support that is provided. Is there anything else? We will work closely with those 10 organisations and try and see how they can be further enhanced. So it will be from our existing, we have events that happen year on year, every year. There are some that we feel that can be scaled up to a greater extent, and we will work with those promoters in order to try and do that.
Yeah, thanks for that, John. No, I had a particular group in mind that runs an annual event, Bruper and District Community Association, who have applied to the council for funding. They're the only cross-community group in Bruper that are run this every year. They have failed to get funding from the council over the last number of years for some baffling reason I can't understand, because to me, cross-community groups, should be encouraged and supported. So I would like to suggest that they would be one of the 10, and it might be a good way of showing that the council actually supports the likes of them, even though, as I say, they have applied over the last number of years and have failed for one reason or another.
Chair, I think, and I know Councillor Green has mentioned this before in the chamber, I think what we have said in relation to the Bruper Community Development Group is that we would work with them and give that assurance in this financial year, that we will work with them in order to ensure that, to try and make their applications successful. At this stage, their applications do not meet the criteria, and so therefore it wouldn't be applicable for them to move on to be one of the 10. Maybe at some time in the future, that is a possibility for the pilot. But for the pilot programme, I wouldn't envisage that they would be. But I give an assurance that the officers will work with the group in order for the funding stream.
Okay. And who makes the rules for this, the 10 that's put forward, that groups are being ruled out at this stage? Is it not the council group?
No, well, I suppose it would be very difficult for an event that doesn't have that scalability at this stage, that hasn't passed the effective test of funding at this stage, to be able to apply multi-annual funding to that group at this stage.
Yeah, well, I disagree with you, John. The fact that they managed to run this without the council's help, I think even more emphasises that they have the scale. The fact that the council hasn't helped them in years and they've still managed to run the events. So I do fundamentally disagree with you on that. And I presume the council chamber and the councillors are the ones that makes the final decision on the rules and regulations on it. So I'd just advise that that's the way that these things should be done.
Yeah, and Chair, as part of, and we have said it there, as part of the council estimates process, we will take a report through as to the groups that we intend to take, that we intend to propose for the multi-annual funding for council approval. Okay, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and I do think there's an opportunity there for emerging festivals and events as well as established ones that can scale up. I think there's a lot of expertise out there within communities, and this would be encouraging to grow where the potential for growth is and to scale up. That the district has festivals that illustrate what the district is about from Anna and Oma. So I think certainly would welcome the proposal there to offer to festivals that sustain and scale up. I think it's part of the tourism development. Certainly it's very welcome. And I think the support from council will be welcome. But I think it shouldn't rule out smaller groups as well who have the ambition to grow, and support would be welcome from the council. But with that, I'd like to recommend the proposals contained in the report. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong. Do we have a seconder for the recommendations? See, Councillor McElduff has indicated.
Flag up immense potential in an event that is not categorised as an event, but attracts huge numbers to Oma, would be, for example, in 2025, when Dublin supporters arrive en masse in Oma. That's something that should be built upon, in my opinion, some way or another. It's crying out for a wee bit of organisation, a wee bit of promotion, a wee bit of support for those who make things like that happen. Just wanted to flag that up, that has great potential if you're trying to structure events. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor McElduff, do you want to second that proposal? No. Okay. Councillor Thompson, were you looking to come in to second that?
Yeah, I was happy to second it, Chair.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll take that as seconded it. Anthony, are you looking to speak on this item? No, you're grand. Okay, that's handy enough. Okay, well, that's proposed and seconded. Do we have agreement? Yeah, I think we do. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on then to item 5.5, which is to consider report on museum accreditation, site-specific forward plan, paper H.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's seek approval for the site-specific forward plan for Monaghan County Museum. It was re-awarded the full museum accreditation in September 19. Accreditation normally runs for 3 years to ensure that the museum is maintaining their standards. Due to COVID, that was suspended, but in January of this year, the committee approved the museum's policy and for accreditation return in early of 2024. The Northern Ireland Museums Council have asked for a number of clarification issues with regard to the accreditation return. And one of those requests was for a site-specific rather than a service-wide forward plan to outline the work of the development plans of Monaghan County Museum. The forward plan is attached at Appendix 1 in the format which has been requested from the Northern Ireland Museums Council. So in order to maintain accreditation, it's recommended that the Council approves the site-specific forward plan for the Fermanagh County Museum. Thank you, Chair.
I'm not seeing any indications to speak. Can we have a proposer and a seconder for these recommendations? I see Councillor Rennie proposing. See Councillor McCardle. Okay, all agreed. Thank you very much. And on then to item 5.6, which is to consider the report on the hardship fund for 24-25 paper I.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, the report is to consider the provision of a hardship package for people of the district for fuel, food, and discretionary support for those that are still and continue to have an impact on the ongoing cost of living increases. Members will be aware that in the last financial year we got almost $250,000 from the Department for Communities, but there is no indication of that funding becoming available for hardship in this financial year. Members will be well aware of the stats in relation to poverty in our district. We have reported previously that over the last 6 years, an average 23% of the Fermanagh and Omagh population have been live in relative poverty. And stats normally that 4 percentage points above that of children and young people who live in relative poverty. So we could have as many or as much as 27% of our children who live in relative poverty. Just a couple of weeks ago, in speaking with one of the agencies, they had indicated that for the first time they had come across a family in our district who was suffering from malnutrition. So there is a continuing need for support within our district. Following a review and because there is no money available, we had a look within our own budgets, and we're saying that a one-off support fund of 60,000 could be made available from underspends identified across a number of areas within community and wellbeing. If that budget were allocated, members decide to allocate that budget, it would enable a vision of we're proposing £45,000 of fuel support programme with St Vincent de Paul and the Red Cross, 5,000 towards food support primarily through the food banks, and 10,000 allocation to Action for Children towards discretionary winter support to fund for families. These are measures which, yes, on a much larger scale in the last 2 previous years we have implemented with huge success on top of others within our district. And members will be aware that the anti-poverty strategy is currently out for consultation. We would be hoping to launch that strategy in November, and it would be a timely time to launch the Winter Hardship Fund also. I suppose there is a recognition that responsibility for this lies with the Department for Communities, but this is just a very local measure in order to try and address at some level, albeit small, the level of poverty within our district, and in fact fits in under the anti-poverty strategy, where the first action point is very much for the immediate need for the people of our district. It's recommended, therefore, Chair, that the Council approves the provision of £60,000 hardship package for residents of our district for fuel, food and discretionary support delivered in partnership with local organisations, and notes the preliminary plans for launch of the Fermanagh and Omagh anti-poverty strategy and social supermarket provision in 24-25. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, John. And I call Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. First thing I would want to say is that in 1.1 there, we are reminded that the Department for Communities previously provided funding to the tune of $245,524. There is currently no indication of a similar package for this year. So I would want to propose that we as a council write to Minister Gordon Lyons to seek, the reinstatement of that package. And I don't do that lightly because we have the evidence. This council has built up the evidence of need. It's an evidence-based case. We would have no difficulty meeting Gordon Lyons and his team around the table to advance the argument based on need. And that might be one of the suggestions in the letter, is that we have a face-to-face engagement of that nature. And I think the council is doing its bit, the way this is outlined as well. Crisis interventions are very important, and being able to find 60,000 from our own resources is playing our part as a local government authority, I believe, especially when we've got the experience of delivering these programs, and that they were co-designed with the community in recent years. There was a fair amount of sitting down with stakeholders and groups to identify how might even a limited amount of money be best spent. And our director, John, mentioned, a family suffering malnutrition. I have visited families as well, where you're staring at poverty and you're staring at decline, and it's awful to witness. I've collected food at food banks for families who hadn't the confidence to cross the door themselves, and I've collected toys on Christmas Eve at Action for Children that stayed open a bit later for toys to be distributed. So there is real evidence, there's real poverty. The council has done its bit, I believe, looked within its budgets, found an amount, 60,000, but it needs to be supplemented by a reinstatement of a DFC amount of money to the tune of what was there previously, 245, would go a long way to help us design an even better package. So I'm making that proposal, the adoption of the recommendation, but also the additional element that I put in there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. And I would like to second, Councillor McElduff's proposals. I know it's something that anti-poverty is something he's made proposals on before in this chamber, and he spoke very well on it on many occasions. But I think, this is something additional that the council's doing. It'll be massively beneficial to the local community. And obviously it's not the same as the just under $250,000 that was there, but it's still some funding and something that we can help with. And hopefully in future, and I'm sure it'll happen, is if there is, and this is coming from underspends from reading the report, if there's underspends in future, we can maybe look at doing this in future years or supplementing it where possible. Obviously that's difficult given how tight money is for the council at times, but something that I think should definitely be looked at going forward as well, Chair. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gannon. I call Councillor Withers.
Thank you, Chair, and I just want to reiterate what's been said already, of course. And 1 in 4 children in our district suffering from poverty is a stark statistic. And unfortunately, whether it's the 60,000 here or £300,000 last year, this is only going to try and treat the symptom, which, as we know, is the agenda currently put forward by the last 14 years, where it was a Tory austerity government, and now we have Labour, for example, with the latest cut to the winter fuel payment for pensioners. So all of that continues to impoverish our local community and have an impact on that. So on that note, I would also like to propose that we would send a letter to the British government on the winter fuel payment for pensions. I know that they've been voting on that today, but we would reiterate our opposition to that, and for that decision to be reversed. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and I will call on Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, it's just obviously to support the previous speakers. I think to learn that we've an individual family who has had a situation where there's malnutrition within their household, I think it really does put the situation into stark light, and certainly would support the speakers going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you for that, Councillor. I mean, from my own perspective, I'll just say I think that the challenges have been put very well tonight. I think that the structural issues in terms of disadvantage, not just around fuel poverty, food poverty, insecure housing, and all the rest of it, these problems have been long-standing for quite some time. But I think just recent challenges have exacerbated and brought it even much more to the public fore. And whilst this is the core responsibility of DFC, I think that it is good that we as a council are able to kind of provide that lead in a limited way where we do have the ability to be able to make a positive difference. On that, I've got a proposer and a seconder for the recommendations as well as, yeah, the letter to DFC, and I don't have a seconder for Councillor Withers' proposal. I see Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. So maybe take those into. So are we agreed then on the recommendations in the report? Good. And are we agreed on Councillor McElduff's proposal in relation to writing to DFC? Agreed. And are we agreed on Councillor Withers' proposal in relation to lobbying with respect to the Winterfield payment? Agreed. All right. Thank you very much, members. Okay. Moving on then to item 5.7, which is to consider minutes of the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee meeting held on the 24th of July, 2024.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the minutes of the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee of the July 24, Chair, just for noting there are a number of recommendations which are included in there, which are affected by the committee. Okay. Councillor Warrington, you happy to propose?
Yeah, happy enough, Chair.
Enough. And do we have a seconder just to note that? Yeah. Councillor McColgan, thank you very much. Okay. Moving on then to item 5.8 to consider the report of the Director of Community and Wellbeing, Paper K.
Thank you, Chair. There are 6 elements or 6 items in the report. One is to seek approval for the provision of a letter of support to the Northwest Cultural Partnership. The partnership have applied to the SEUPB for on the investment area 1.3 billion positive relations. The objective of the call is to promote positive relations characterised by respect, where cultural diversity is celebrated and people can live, learn and socialise together free from prejudice, hate and intolerance. They've applied for funding to develop hubs model. And just to note that the Northwest Cultural Partnership are a partner with the Council for an application to the SEUPB in our Omagh Peace Park. The second element is to seek approval for letter of support to Devonish College for their submission of an expression of interest to Sport NI for Your School, Your Club for a community hockey pitch. In August, Sport NI opened up an expression of interest to be for projects which were effectively shovel ready, which could be completed by the 31st of March. Very short time period, just 6 months. But they also asked for expression of interest for those projects beyond 24-25. The provision of a hockey pitch, members will remember, has been on the agenda here for some time, and in consultation with the council officers, Devonish College submitted an expression of interest prior to the closing date of the 2nd of September. It isn't a project which will be able to be completed by the 31st of March, but it will be on the long list for future projects, and they request a letter of support provided to the council. Any letter of support wouldn't construe any financial commitment by the council, nor indeed provide any support for a planning application that may be required for the construction of a hockey pitch. The third element of the report is to provide an update to members in relation to the development of an angling facility at Wolf Loch. Again, this has been brought through the chamber on a number of occasions. Wolf Loch is in the grounds of the Southwest Acute Hospital and had been identified by Aaron Anglers as a potential location to develop an angling centre. Officers from the council have facilitated several meetings between Aaron Anglers and the Western Health and Social Care Trust A number of issues really do provide a barrier for Wolflock becoming an angling centre. You know, ideas of traffic flow, management on site, parking services, planning restrictions, statutory approvals, and so on. Their anglers don't believe that they will be able to meet the requirements of the trust and are actively looking for alternative sites, and council officers will support that group when they have identified a site. The fourth element of the report is to inform members of funding received through the Home Office Refugee Integration Fund, through the Executive Office, to enhance integration support services for refugees in the Fermanagh and Omagh area. The objective of it's £50,000 which has been allocated to FODC to enhance that integration, and council staff and the Community and Wellbeing Director are actively engaged with the refugee communities to develop programmes and activities for commencement in early September. The next element of the report is to provide an update on funding received from the Executive Office towards the 24-25 Good Relations Action Plan. It was presented to Council for approval in December 23. There was two funding streams, members will remember. One was relating to the funding element which had been received in 2023, and alternatively an allocation which had been received in 2024, which was almost £100,000 less. The funding awarded this year is at the level of 141,500, which is greater than the 23, slightly greater than the 23-24 allocation, and the action plan has been reviewed to see what can be provided as for those monies. Only one action, the participatory budgeting programme, will no longer go ahead, and to facilitate the provision of grant aid to all applicants scoring 60% and above, and other actions are progressing within the adjusted plan or the adjusted budget. And the final element of the report is in relation to VE Day 80, where there are national plans for the 80th celebration of Victory in Europe Day on the 5th of May 2025. Organisers are encouraging councils and communities who have existing beacons and lamps to relight them at 9:30 on the 8th of May, and for those with pets to consider lighting a lamp light of peace to remember the millions of animals that gave service during World War II. Organisers are also encouraging as many churches and cathedrals within the district to ring their bells at 6:30 on that evening, and those planning to take part are requested to register their event and to promote the event within the local media. A copy of the request from the pageant master is attached at Appendix 1. So therefore, Chair, the recommendations is to approve the letter of support to the Northwest Cultural Partnership, to approve the letter of support to Devonish College for the expression of interest to Sport NI, to note the update on Wolflock, to note the allocation of funding towards the delivery of refugee integration funding, to note the update of Fermanagh and Omagh District Council Good Relations Action Plan, and to note the request from the VE Day 80 Pageant Master to take part in the VE Day 80 anniversary on the 8th of May. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, John. And I go to Councillor Glenn Campbell.
Just going back to item 2.1 on the report, that's it's the first part of the recommendation. So it's the letter of support for Northwest Cultural Partnership. And just a few queries that I have. So we are in partnership already with this grouping or this partnership in respect to the application for the Omagh Peace Park. But we're also here providing a letter of support for, this is like a separate project. And I suppose I just wanted to clarify, we do provide, letters of support to various organisations, and our support is, inferred, clearly from our joint application anyway. But is there any risk that we're perhaps supporting, an application here that'll be sort of looking money from the same pot as other Partnerships and organizations, where do we stand on that, or what's the officer's view on it?
We have a position within the council that we do not support funding applications to the same measure that we are actually actively a part of itself. So we have made a submission to SEUPP on the measure 1.4 for the Oma Peace Park. This is in relation to measure 1.3, which would be within the position of the council.
Yes, and will there be other groups in our district applying to the same measure, 1.3?
If there are, we are not aware of them.
Yeah. Okay.
But if we would, and they have not asked us for a letter of support. Normally, we would.
Yeah, you would know when I
request that we bring initiatives to
yeah.
the paper here.
Understand that. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thanks to John for his report. I think the recommendations there basically speak for themselves. Quite a range of recommendations and right across the community, very broad. And at this stage, I'm happy to propose the recommendations, all 6 as listed.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Thompson. And Councillor Gammon.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm happy to second as it stands, Chair, just in terms of support for the hockey pitch at Devonish. I think that's a brilliant opportunity. It's been something that's been talked about and the local hockey club have been looking for quite some time. What I would suggest, obviously, we're not making a financial commitment, but that the council maybe actively continues to see if there are funding pots available and communicate with Devonish and the local hockey clubs that there may be something here, whether that's through our own funding pots and grants that we may have available, or through others, through such as DFC coming down. So maybe just something coming to keep an eye on going forward, because obviously this isn't going to happen immediately. So there may be an opportunity to find additional funding streams that could help the college and help the hockey club. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Just come back to the letter of support for the Northwest Cultural Partnership. It's something I had never heard tell of before on this here. I'm just wondering, is that, I presume that's not a cross community. I presume it's a single identity organisation, that it's promoting one side of the community actions. Exactly what, can it be explained to me, what exactly are they looking for funding for? You know, is it totally a one side of the community organisation? And if so, it probably isn't something that you know, the council should be promoting, as in, are we not beyond that now? Are we not trying to support organisations that bring in all sections of the community? I'm not sure, but can you just say what, or point out what exactly they're looking to fund or achieve with this fund?
Chair, I don't have the details of the application in front of me, but you will see there 2.1.2, the elements that they're developing funding for, develop a hub model that will promote greater collaboration, build capacity and leadership within the PUL community, and create opportunities for cross-cultural and cross-community engagement. I can certainly go and get the application, ask the Northwest Cultural Partnership for their submission, or for their anticipated submission. But that's as much information as I have at this point in time.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other indications at this stage. John, one query that I would just have, just in terms of the piece around the Good Relations Action Plan. Obviously, when we previously had looked at this item in the context of sort of the presumed funding that we were going to be getting, which was more limited. My recollection was that there was at least one element of that which was totally obliterated and was essentially reduced to £0 of funding. There may well have been other elements that were in that situation. I'm conscious that you said that in the report that there's only one element that can't go ahead. So those elements that were totally wiped out essentially previously, has there been some funding been restored in terms of the extra funding that's now came forward?
Yeah, what we had presented previously, Chair, was two scenarios. One was the full reinstatement of the 22-23 position, and then something which was aligned to the 23-24 position. And in that 23-24 position, there were a number of lines in the action plan which were totally obliterated. The small increase or the increase in funding from that 23-24 position has allowed us to reinstate everything except that the participatory budgetary funding program.
That's a good step in the right direction, at least. Okay, folks, we have a proposer and a seconder for that item. Are we content? We are content. Thank you very much. Okay, members, at this stage, I need a proposer for us to go into committee. Councillor Donnelly and Councillor Gannon. Okay, we're going into committee. Oh, yeah, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Kelly. Yeah, John, you do something. Okay, the background, grand. Okay, members, we're now going to move on to. Yeah.
Chair, Whaling Committee members considered a report on business case assessment and approved the business case addendum, which was included. Members considered an update report on the redevelopment of Fermanagh Lakeland Forum and approved all of the recommendations in relation to it, and also considered a report on house and multiple occupation update and approved the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We now move on to. Yeah, sorry, can I get a proposer in a second just to note that? And Councillor Donnelly and Councillor Gannon. All right, thank you very much, folks. Okay, we're now going to move on to item 9, which is the notices of motion. We have got 2 on the agenda tonight that have come to us from council, full council. And we're going to be starting with 9.1, which is the motion on racism, which has been proposed by Councillor Coyle and seconded by Councillor Hayes. So I go to Councillor Coyle to move the motion. And you have 5 minutes.
Thanks, Chair. Hopefully I won't take long, although, you know, it does deserve even more time because it's such a serious issue. And it's just a disgrace that a motion like this is actually needs to even come before council in 2024. I do believe that many people here welcome all our different newcomers into our communities, whether they come for work or they're seeking refuge. However, racism continues, and it continues also to be fueled by the continuous negative press and the far right. Only last week I was in town chatting about work and wages and probably complaining and everything. And the woman I was speaking to said, yeah, we have to do that. And yet others come here and get everything. So I just want to really say a little bit about the myths around immigration and our migrant workers. So I did correct her because it's a widely held myth. Asylum seekers are low in numbers here in the north, and they can't work at this present moment in time. Unison and the Law Centre carried out a study where over 90% said that they would be willing to work and work in the health sector. They included 4 doctors, nurses, dentists, and other healthcare workers. So this is an area that needs to change. And often people confuse themselves with asylum seekers and migrant workers. They don't even know what the difference is between them. Our migrant workers fill the skills gap that is so needed, especially in our health service, and do jobs that often others don't want to do. And that includes areas like the food industry. I've heard people complain that they send their money home to their own countries. I heard that in the nursing homes years over 20 years ago, and they're still saying it now. Well, I'm sure if they can afford to, that they do. However, they still have to pay their taxes, their rent, their mortgages, the gas, electric, buy food and clothes, and live like the rest of us. And then what do? We bank our money where their headquarters are in other countries, spend money on foreign holidays. Many of us, most of us, I'd say the majority of us, purchase food, clothes, furniture, which is all produced abroad. So what's the actual point of even that comment? For over 10 years, nobody coming into the country can claim benefits. If they're from outside Europe, they have to contribute their taxes for over 5 years before they're entitled to anything. They do not get priority in housing, nor do they put pressure on the health service. It basically would not function without our migrant workers, our international nurses and doctors. There are not as many attacks here in Fermanagh, racial attacks here in Fermanagh, but there have been
as what was recently in the bigger areas in the cities, but one is one too many. Racism often starts at home and then in schools. The schools need to ensure that they have a policy in place, not that sits on the shelf, but policies that challenge racism and stamp it out within the schools. That is not happening at the minute in all schools. In the workplaces, there is so much underlying racism, including in the healthcare sector. Some workers are told they cannot join trade unions, especially in the private sector, in nursing homes and so on. All workers can join a trade union. They're there to protect people for some of these very reasons. There are workers who live in fear of their employer, especially when their accommodation is linked to it. And as our MP, Pat Cullen, told all of those in number 10 when she was head of the RCN, and over thousands of nurses, many of whom were international nurses, that these types of working conditions are just modern day slavery, forms of modern day slavery, and we need to call this out every time. The PSNI should be more proactive in stamping it out. Racism has to be challenged at every level, and it would not be accepted in our council area. If anyone experienced racism, they can go to their unions if they're in one. Unison have their own Black and migrant working groups. There is the Law Centre, NI, the Muslim Association, the African and Caribbean Community Support Groups, the Equality Commission, and we have our own OMA Ethnic Community Support Group locally. And there are others, and I would encourage anybody that does experience this, or if anybody comes to you as councillors, you know, these groups are there to help these people. If anybody thinks that it's not going on,
You're at 5 minutes, Councillor Coyle.
their heads are buried in the sand. It is going on. It's very underlying in Fermanagh, but it is there. And I'm hoping that all councillors support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coyle. So, Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Okay, yeah, obviously I'm seconding this motion. I agree with absolutely everything that Councillor Coyle has just said. I think it's important that those myths are busted. The lies are fueling a lot of this. I just wanted to come in really on the back of that, and as diversity ambassador as well, and just point some benefits of having a diverse community very quickly. On the other side of that, diversity promotes tolerance, understanding between different cultures. It enriches our communities through our shared experiences with different people. It enriches our communities with their valuable contributions to society, both economically and socially. It attracts money to our economy through the growth of different businesses. It relieves skill shortages, as Councillor Coyle said. 4% of the workforce here in the north is made up of migrants, and many are doctors and nurses and healthcare workers, including obviously a lot of other different professions. Diversity teaches us about different cultures, backgrounds. It gives us the opportunity to hear about different perspectives, and different experiences, different languages, traditions, music, food. I believe learning something new challenges our thinking, and it can make us more tolerant and understanding. We must challenge the lies that fuels racism, division and hate and violence. And we must strive for inclusion, equality, understanding and solidarity. No human is superior over another. We are all equal, and we must fight inequality at all levels. We must reject anyone inciting hatred and racism, their attitudes and their actions. Racism is wrong, and it has no place in our communities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hayes. And I call Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. And like everyone else across the north, I was shocked by the scenes we saw over the summer and the end of the summer. The racist attacks, intimidation that sprung up over what turned out to be false information as well, Chair, around an event in England. As Councillor Coyle said when she was proposing the motion, it's terribly sad that we've got to a stage where a motion like this needs to be proposed and that we got to the situation where we were. But I am heartened by the large numbers of individuals who took part in anti-racism events, far, far outweighing the racist few. And for Fermanagh and Omagh, and this motion is timely because Fermanagh and Omagh is becoming a more diverse place. I see it in the school in which I work, and we see it in our streets, and we see it in our sports clubs and across the district. And it's important that we all say immigrants are welcome here. And in fact, we should actually be seeking to increase immigration to an area like Fermanagh and Omagh. We need immigration here. People who come here keep our vital services open and keep them functioning. Our hospitals would close tomorrow without immigrants. I'd like to know all the people who are decrying immigrants if they like getting medical treatment on time. And not only that, there's economic benefits to immigration. Tax immigrants have a higher level of entrepreneurship and job creation. And of course, the social benefit, because multiculturalism being brought by immigrants in our society does provide a real benefit. And the thing is, despite the small numbers, the North is a welcoming place. It's one of our trademarks, it's one of our USPs that we're a welcoming place. And a few racist thugs stirring trouble will not change that. Bringing hooligans along with them who aren't even from the area to stir trouble. We are a welcoming place, and everyone here and everyone in society should challenge racism at every opportunity. They see it in the street, they see it in a group chat, they see it wherever. It should be challenged. And we and us in politics and political parties have a role to play. Those who blame immigration for problems in our society or try to claim that there's good reasons for the concern really are just avoiding the responsibility of doing their job. Yeah, there's problems in society, but those problems aren't the fault of immigration. They're the fault of politicians and a long time in the Tory government not doing their job and letting people down. But of course, I'll be as obvious from what I've said, be supporting the motion and thank the two councillors for bringing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gannon. And I call Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank the two councillors for raising the motion here this evening. Certainly the Ulster Unionist Party will be supporting it without doubt. We will, and I think as picking up on points that Councillor Coyle made, particularly about education, the education sector, learning is needed in the school place, because I think as we move forward as a more diverse, welcoming and tolerant culture in society, we want to embed that learning. I think there is so much to be gained from newcomers to our district in terms of, and the two councillors have said that in terms of the culture, the learning, food, the skills. So certainly the Ulster Unionist Party would be supporting this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Not seeing any further indications, and if I might just say briefly, as somebody who has the pleasure of representing Omagh and has taken great pride in the fact that Omagh, as indeed the wider district, has become more diverse over the years, the violence and the intimidation that we've witnessed over the last number of weeks has been absolutely disgusting. And I would just say quite simply that to those that abuse migrants who have chosen to come here to better their quality of life, I would just say, look at our health service, look at our schools, look at who provides care for our elderly, and look at who came here from different parts of the world, and in so doing bettered our quality of life. We should cherish that diversity, not run away from it. If there are no further... I see Councillor Buchanan may have to be the last speaker on this motion, and then we'll have to go to the wind-up.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies, you should have been on sooner. Just on behalf of our group, I would like to support the motion as well. There's no place in our society or district for racism and what we have seen over the past weeks and months. So just to pass on our own support on that of our group for the motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. And back to Councillor Coyle for summing up.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to everybody in the chamber and online, and all the parties, because I think this is really important for cross-party support, and it's just really important. I just wanted to publicly say that the asylum seekers are only, for people that doesn't know, and I corrected the girl during the week, are getting something like £39 a week to live on. A child up to 1 year old gets £9.50 extra, and a child between 1 and 3 gets £5.50 extra, nothing after that, and they're not entitled to child benefit at that stage. So, you know, people really, really need to learn the facts of how people live in their struggle. Many of them are trafficked anyway, or they pay horrendous amounts of money to come to a place where they think they're gonna have some kind of freedom and work and be happy. And I work with a lot of our migrant staff in the health service, and you know, they're very happy where they are here in Enniskillen or across the manor. But for anybody that is has different thoughts, you know, they need to learn what is really going on. And just thank the councillors for supporting the motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Coyle, putting that motion then to the floor. Are we all agreed? Any disagreement? No, that is passed. Thank you very much. Moving on then, members, to item 9.2, which is a notice of motion with respect to the Struhl Shared Education Campus. And that is being moved by Councillor McElduff and seconded by Councillor McColgan. Councillor McElduff, you have 5 minutes.
Want to welcome the formal awarding of the contract for the construction of the Struhl Shared Education Campus in Omagh by the Department of Education, announced by Minister Paul Given, and that was awarded to Woodvale Lowry Joint Venture Limited. Very, very positive step. And if we look ahead to the timeline, we're in September 24 now, and anticipated opening of the formal opening of the campus fully will be in September 28. So a lot's going to happen in a 4-year period. You know, there's been slippage to date variously, but you know, that's the goal there. That's what we're heading towards. Now, the Struhl Shared Education Campus, I'm sure all councillors are aware of it. This leaflet here is very useful in detailing exactly what it is. It's all about inclusion, education at the core, reconciliation. It seeks to meet the post-primary and special educational needs of Omagh and its surrounding area through maximum collaboration, cooperation and interdependence between local schools on the one site, and we're all familiar with the history of it, how it was transferred to the executive for the purpose of this educational village. So it's pioneering, indeed iconic. And Arvely School is already on site, great success, to be joined by Omagh CBS, which is currently located on the Kevlin Road. Omagh High, located at Crevena Road. Omagh Academy, I think it's a Dublin Road address, and Loretto at James Street, and Sacred Heart College at Kevlin Road. So the point I'm making is that the town of Omagh is about to undergo a very, very radical transformation in terms of townscape. You know, and it's self-evident, isn't it, to all of us, that freeing up of 5 post-primary school sites between now and September 2028. And that'll require some strategic management, financial investment from the public and private sectors, And what's the role of this council? Well, obviously, civic leadership. I wouldn't be in favour of too many working groups being established or re-established, but I think we're in the territory of perhaps re-establishing a working group to look at these sites and what we can do, you know, to be an engine for improvement and regeneration. Obviously, there's some territory we can't stray into too much, you know, that'll be more for the private sector, but whatever we can do to help facilitate this in the years ahead, I think it's very, very necessary. And again, you know, town centre businesses in Omagh could easily be worried about what the future holds for them in terms of this physical transformation and thousands of pupils moving out from the town centre. So we need to take a look at that as strategically as possible as well. I think the minister's on his way later this week. Just there's a lot to be sorted here. And if I could suggest in the course of this motion that we look again at establishing a council-led or a council working group suitably structured to look at these challenges, because the challenges are right on top of us now. So it requires a renewed focus and renewed engagement with all the stakeholders, all the players. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McElduff. And I go to Councillor McColgan to second it. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm aware of the time, so I'm not going to be too long. Just to agree with everything that Councillor McElduff said, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to second this motion. I have had an interest in the redevelopment of the Stirl site and have been involved with the Stirl Education Campus stakeholder group for a long number of years. And through that time, there have been quite a number of delays and setbacks to the project. So I'm happy now that the contract for construction has finally been awarded. And looking forward to the delivery of the project, which will not only present fantastic education opportunities for our young people going forward, but it's also, as Councillor McDuff said, crucial to the future development and growth of the town. Because the delivery of the education campus will open up the existing school sites in the town for potential development, and which will allow for the town centre to be expanded. And this, of course, will need a proper strategic approach, including input from all relevant stakeholders to ensure the future viability and sustainability of Omagh. So this is positive news for the town with huge potential for Omagh and the wider district. So I'm happy to second the motion and look forward to the delivery of the Stirl Education Campus. It's an exciting time for the town over the next few years.
Thank you, Councillor McColgan. I'm going to bring in Councillor Thompson at this stage.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, can I thank Councillor McAduff and Councillor McColgan for proposing and seconding this very important motion for our town. First of all, I welcome the motion, and on behalf of the party, we do support it. The background, obviously, been involved in the Stirl Shared Education Campus stakeholder group for all those years from its outset, like Councillor McColgan, and we've had all the stop, start, but I think we're moving in the right place now. I welcome, obviously, the award of the contract to Woodvale Lorry Joint Venture Limited. I mean, that says it all, because we have a joint venture there from the West Tyrone constituency, if you like, two neighbouring council areas of Fermanagh and Omagh and Derry City and Strabane councils. So, and everything that will come from that, you know, the smaller subcontractor, everything else, it's been very much welcomed. I agree with Councillor McAduff when he said the renewed focus, maybe of a working group. The opportunity sites working group we did have in the council, I thought it was beneficial, but maybe not at the right time. Maybe this is the time now to reinvigorate that sort of a working group as we move forward. And we know there's a higher level group that meets from time to time, but I think from a local point of view, we need to be involved. The maintenance of our current schools is very important because we're talking 4 years down the line here, and some of the schools are not in the best of shape. I always refer to Oma High School. I've had a tour around there. There's certain painting and things that have been done to it. Other than that, really nothing. So we have another 4 years to wait until they get the gates open and the campus will be there at that stage. So I think we need to focus on that as well. And obviously reopen it with the opening of this in September 2028 will be very much welcomed. So thank you, and I'm happy to support the motion on behalf of myself and on behalf of the Democratic Unionist Party Group. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we're going to need some really kind of brief contributions just in this last minute or two here. So, Councillor Gannon.
Chair, thank you. Just to say, the FDLP, of course, welcome progress on the site, and it's no doubt a relief for the 6 schools. I know Daniel McCrossan, in his role as an MLA, has been working with the schools, as others have been, for many years. It shouldn't have taken years, but at least we're at this stage now. Now, having seen the new facilities, it's, for example, the new Devonish College firsthand, I can tell as a teacher, this is a fantastic opportunity for the kids and the staff of the schools, and will change the face of education in Tyrone and provide the best educational experience possible. Now, there is a challenge on the town centre of Omagh, and having worked in Omagh, it's evident the economic benefit the schools bring to the town centre. But with every challenge, there is, of course, opportunity, as has been said. But failure to address the challenge could be devastating, Chair. So this motion is timely. It's a very well written motion, and hopefully the Strudel campus will continue without a hitch going forward, and we're happy to support. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gannon, and Councillor Rennie.
Well, thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor McElduff and Councillor McColgan for bringing the motion. And on behalf of myself and our Ulster Unionist Party, we want to really welcome and support the motion. It has been an ongoing project for a long time in discussion, and we're really delighted, Chair, at this minute in time that we are seeing light in the tunnel. And indeed, on behalf of the staff and the teachers of the schools that have indeed lobbied so very hard for this as well, they have left no stone unturned to add their support to it. And on their behalf, I would want to say thank you for all that you have done, and wish you well in the future. And for the children that are, I suppose, looking down into the future as to whether they will benefit from all of the mod cons that will be there, I'm sure that there is very much in their minds and on their families, the parents and all as well, and do wish them well for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reddy. Okay, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly's going to have the last word on this, and then we have to go to the winding up.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to welcome the motion, and following on from the engagement we had with the schools last year when I was Vice Chair, you know, they were very glad of the support of the council at the time whenever the pressure was on to try and get the funding agreed and get this project where we are now. So I'm delighted that they've awarded the contract. It is an opportunity for the Omagh area to look at opportunities for development for the future, whether it be commercial, whatever opportunities are considered, and potential investment for the town. So I look forward to see what will replace the schools in a few years' time. But I do think it is an opportunity for Omagh, and it's something between the schools and the local business community certainly could work together to improve things in the area. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, Councillor McElduff.
Thank all the speakers who supported the motion, And as Councillor Donnelly has said there, it's an opportunity and it's a challenge as well. It's a big challenge and it's a big opportunity. My concluding point would be just to renew the call for the company and companies involved, and I'm sure they will deliver on this, as is their duty, will be in the social corporate responsibility area to make sure that there are work opportunities, for people who have been economically inactive, honouring those social clauses. And also, I'd like to hear sooner rather than later what opportunities will present for other companies, to be part of the supply chain. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, just putting that to the floor. Are we agreed? Agreed. Any dissent? I'm not seeing or hearing any dissent, so that is passed. Members, thank you very much for your cooperation, and I appreciate that was really tight. Unfortunately, we are not going to realistically get the rest of the business completed on this occasion, so the correspondence will be dealt with at the next meeting of P&R, and the for information reports will be moved on to the next R&C committee meeting. Members, thank you very much for your attendance tonight and for your cooperation, and safe home.
Chair.